Let's go up to the Pacific Northwest as they try to figure out who will be the successor to Russell Wilson. Geno Smith has had the lead for all of the offseason program and training camp, and he started on Saturday night up the road in Pittsburgh. Long trip for the Seattle Seahawks. Here's Pete Carroll after he got back home talking about his two quarterbacks, Geno Smith and Drew Lock.
As it turned out, both guys, that was a good outing because they had a lot of pressure on them, to have to get things done. We were coming from behind and drives to, to go ahead and all that kind of stuff. That was really, and I'm anxious to see how it looks when we break it down. But that's the kind of options we're looking for, to see how the guys were doing. Red zone stuff, big third downs. I think we were 5 for 11 on third downs or something like that, so the guys came through a little bit there too.
I may have misspoken given that funky logo on the podium. That may be the Acrisure logo, which means that may have happened immediately after the game. Either way, both quarterbacks did look good. And I think if it's even remotely close, I think we're on the same page here. If it's remotely close, it's Geno Smith. Pete Carroll wants to win, especially week 1, 4 weeks from tonight, when Russell Wilson and the Broncos go to Seattle. I think Pete Carroll would love nothing more than to beat Russell Wilson with his former backup.
Well, they're both talented. They are. That's one thing you see. They got physical gifts. They can make every throw. They can escape out of the pocket. So there's that ability. I do think it's going to go back. I'm with you, Mike. Yes, I do think Geno is the guy that's, probably the leader here because he's been there. There's history. He understands how Pete Carroll wants to play, right? Drew Lock did have the turnover where that, even though it wasn't his fault, they'd still go, he turns over every now and then, even though he got hit from behind and it wasn't really his fault. He can't block and do that all the time. And, again, with this, too, you got to evaluate the situation. It wasn't apples to apples. Both played really good. Geno, in my opinion, was in the tougher situation. Geno had to play against a lot of starters on the Pittsburgh defense. So people got to look at that, too, and we can evaluate maybe when the roles are reversed next game. But Geno got to play with, other than Cam Hayward and T.J. Watt, he had to play the Pittsburgh defense. Miles Jack and Devin Bush and the secondary guys, other than Minkah Fitzpatrick, were all out there. And then he didn't have, DK Metcalf or Lockett. So life was a little harder for him. He hung in there and got his rhythm and made some nice plays. And then when Drew Lock got in, hey, you can say what you want about Drew Lock, and we'll see if he can continue to be a good quarterback and be trustworthy. But his talent is another guy. It just pops off the screen. The way as easy as he can throw the football, and again, he's a big and athletic too. It's going to be interesting. It's not every day you get two guys where you go, whoa, they both got strong arms. Whoa, they both can get out of, trouble. And I think ultimately it'll be the trust tree factor, like you brought up, Mike, that ultimately wins Geno unless something, dramatic happens.
And I feel like it's inevitable in a case like this where you have two guys that are that close. At some point, you're going to see both of them, either because of injury or because the team just says,
it sputters out a little.
We've got to try to reinvigorate our season, and we have to go with the other guy.
Right.
And I feel like if that's the reality, it really is better to let the incumbent try to hold on to the job as long as he can. And then once we know,
right,
everybody will kind of know
exactly
time to turn the page to the other guy. And I think it's easier to go Smith to Lock than Lock to Smith.
I would agree with that too. I think if it's the way you're talking about and you throw Lock out there and it becomes a little bit, okay, now they're 2-4 or 1-3 and he's thrown some bad interceptions, to me that's just going to bring more issues to the organization where they're just going to be like, well, I mean, what did you expect? What are you guys, idiots? Drew Lock, he's always turning the ball over and doing things like this. So I'm with you in that aspect. Geno knows the offense a little bit better. He seems to know how to take care of the football, Seattle style, the way we saw last year. And, of course, we saw him. He can push the ball down the field. And the other night, I mean, he made some amazing escapes when he had pressure on him. Russell Wilson-ish like there, just to get out of trouble and keep the offense in some good situations.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.